I still get a little giddy. No, let's be honest, Petty, when I hear the memory of Officer Miller's duty belt squeak. It's a tiny sound, but in our neighborhood it might as well have been the gavel of destiny, because that squeak was the opening chord of a war I never expected to win. It began with a towel, and it ended with a 20-foot monument to spite and a lesson I didn't know I needed. 2 days before the circus, I was living the suburban version of blissful boredom. Truck-washed wheels polished a small blue microfiber towel draped over an aluminum patio chair to dry in the Florida sun. Seemed normal civilization's oldest trick, right? Except in Shady Pines, normal is a crime if Brenda, our HOA president, decides it is. 2 hours and 14 minutes later, I opened my door to a bright pink laminated citation on my welcome mat. $250 for an unauthorized and unseemly display of textiles with a grainy zoomed photo of the towel clipped to it like it was evidence in a true crime doc. The signature read Brenda. Most people would toss the laminated slip in the recycling and promise to dry towels in the garage. Not me. I am, as my friends will attest, a man who specializes in the delicate art of malicious compliance. If Brenda wanted to pretend a towel was a criminal act, I would show her the difference between a petty fine and a spectacle. So I bought a 15-foot telescoping flagpole, a pair of XXL cherry red faux silk boxer shorts, and the satisfaction of a plan that felt a little like art and a lot like mischief. I installed the pole dead center in the front yard, mixed concrete, set the sleeve, let it cure in the baking afternoon sun, hoisted the ridiculous boxers halfway up exactly half-mast, because nothing says morning like oversized underwear, and sat on my porch with a mug of coffee to watch the parade. Dave, the retired accountant down the street, came by, walking his dog. Barnaby did a double take and laughed until he saluted me with a dog poop bag. That was the warm-up act. The main event was Brenda. She came careening up in her custom golf cart like a jury summons, launched herself out, and started shrieking about obscenity and community standards. Right then, the sound of another engine announced Officer Miller and a rookie, and suddenly the thing had escalated from neighborly tomfoolery to official business. Miller looked at the boxers, at Brenda, at me, and did what a decent cop does. He assessed the facts. No profanity, no threatening imagery, nothing that met the state's definition of obscenity. Police don't enforce HOA bylaws. He sighed, pocketed common sense, and left, while Brenda declared I'd be fined $1,000 a day. She thought money would make me cave. She thought wrong. I lowered the pole 10 minutes after the cruisers pulled away, thinking the circus might abate. That was Phase 1, remove the target look, conciliatory. Phase 2 was research. I spent the night like a sleep-deprived archaeologist of municipal law, digging through statutes until at 2 in the morning I found Florida Statute 163.04. It explicitly protects solar energy devices and clotheslines from being banned by deed restrictions. Solar collectors, clotheslines, or other energy devices based on renewable resources cannot be prohibited. And crucially, the prevailing party in litigation recovers attorney's fees. In legal terms, nuclear option. That finding was the twist. The towel wasn't just a towel, it was a catalytic clue. The state had, in its dry legislative way, handed me a weapon. I sketched a plan that would both obey the law and thumb a nose at tyranny, a multi-tiered industrial-grade drying array, tall, visible, and anchored where Brenda could watch it from her living room. I called a contractor who hates permits and likes upsetting HOA boards. He showed up with an auger and crew and a grin that said he'd built stranger things for stranger reasons. By noon the next day, my front yard looked like a construction staging ground. 4 massive pressure-treated posts sunk into concrete heavy top beams, industrial steel core cables strung in multiple tiers, architecturally overkill for drying socks and undergarments, and perfectly framed by Brenda's front window across the street. Gary, the HOA vice president, marched over with a red stop work order and tried to bully us into halting construction. I slid a certified neon-highlighted copy of 163.04 across to him like a menu and watched the color drain from his face. He folded the paper, stuffed it in his pocket, and retreated. We did not stop. We escalated for theater. I bought out Walmart's novelty sock aisle, neon greens, taco patterns, patriotic presidents, and S's crew clipped 40 pairs across the cables. The result, a riot of cotton and polyester snapping in the wind like a flock of angry, very colorful birds. Brenda's eyes, I imagine, nearly popped out. She responded with paperwork, a summons to a disciplinary hearing, fines, itemized into a ledger that read, like extortion, $15,500 total, a combination of the original bogus fine and alleged unpermitted structure and penalty multipliers for the continuous display. I called William Vance, a real estate litigator who loves a clean HOA scalp, explained the statute, and told him to draft a complaint for injunctive relief and damages. He printed it on his fanciest paper and couriered 3 copies to my door. It was my loaded gun for the hearing. The clubhouse was packed the night of the meeting, Shady Pines in full soap opera mode. Brenda flounced in her red blazer, perched behind the board table like an empress with a wooden gavel, and began. She projected a giant photo of my timber array and listed the fines like a litany. I sat in the hot seat, opened my binder, and did the thing you do when you have law on your side. I asked the HOA's counsel, Mr. Abernathy, if he was familiar with Section 163.04. He said he was broadly, but he hadn't memorized every subsection. I slid the notarized statute across the table and told the room plainly that the structure in my yard was a state-protected solar fabric drying array which preempted their covenants. If you've ever watched blood drain out of a man's face in real time, there's your moment, Abernathy whispered to Brenda. That I was right. He admitted it, but forgot the mic was live. His panic was broadcast to 80 neighbors in folding chairs. Silence, then pandemonium. The counsel, flustered, announced he would withdraw if Brenda didn't dismiss the fines. She sputtered. I set my complaint down on the table and told them calm as a judge that at dawn I would file it. The statute's fee-shifting clause meant that if I prevailed, the HOA would be on the hook for my attorney's fees. In plain terms, court would bankrupt the association faster than their landscaping budget could recover. That was the satisfying bit. The gavel that had felt like a cudgel was now a cracked relic. The meeting erupted. Neighbors who'd once nodded at Brenda's petty edicts stood up and cheered. Gary fled. Brenda's face cycled through colors, and with the PA system finally under competent hands, the board recognized the statute's supremacy and dismissed the fines with prejudice. The wooden gavel splintered when Abernathy slammed it down in dramatic adjournment. The sound was delicious. Here's the moral I didn't plan to learn. Legal systems are boring, granular, and procedural, but they are also powerful. Justice isn't always cinematic. Sometimes it's a statute, a certified copy, and a well-timed filing. I learned that petty authority relies on silence and paperwork. When someone actually looks up into the hierarchy of law, those little tyrannies can be dismantled. And unexpectedly, I learned that spite, channeled into something both ridiculous and legally righteous, can become a civic corrective that feels dangerous and beautiful all at once. Brenda retreated to her immaculate yard, stripped of the polish of unchecked power. The HOA survived, recalibrated, humiliated. I added a 5th tier to the array, weeks later beach towels this time for maximum aerodynamic drama, and the socks still rattle on windy evenings like a private joke. But I'll leave you with an uncomfortable question. When the law lets the little guy humble in overzealous authority, is that righteous victory or an invitation to weaponize loopholes for petty revenge? Tell me what you think. Have you ever turned a small act of defiance into a broader stand? Drop a comment, share your story. And if you enjoyed watching an HOA get its comeuppance, hit like and subscribe, because in Shady Pines there's always another towel